this what this whole conversation's about, right? It's about educating the public on what is it that we do at Orchards, because when you're the case manager, when you are responsible for being able to make sure that these children have advocates, when you are the advocate, part of that is being able to make sure that the larger community is engaged, and not just putting it on, oh, well, social workers kind of get like the halo effect of like, oh, well, you can do everything. You can just make sure that this is happening for everyone. But really the only way we can make that happen is if we have a full-on engaged community where everyone says, this is what I can do. This is where I can fulfill that need and that gap.
Now, one thing I wanted to double back on with again, back on the independent living, I'm putting you on the spot here. So again, it's we're going to use the word awareness a lot, getting this information out, helping people understand, helping them understand that they're not alone in doing this. It's a scary venture, but with everyone's support, it's fulfilling. It's very fulfilling. What age-wise? Again, you mentioned you've got basically the when children are going through, so 16 to 20,
right,
is what we've got. After can they when they're in placement, can they be older? Can how long, I guess, is where I'm getting at. Can someone doing placement be able to?
Right. So there's two like subgroups basically. So we have independent living. So these are kids who are 16, 17, sometimes 18, that are wards of the court or wards of the state. So they're legal, they are legally placed with the court for supervision or placed with the state. And they have, open cases, open court cases, and they, have a caseworker. They get, all the services that we've talked about, the monthly home visits, the, help them with budgeting, goal setting, all that stuff.
That's wonderful.
And then once they reach either 18 or 19, the legal status changes. So the court closes, or the state, closes, just legally though. So Michigan, back in 2014, so it's actually back in 2008, the federal government made it, they kind of incentivized it for states to expand some of these services.
Right.
So in 2014, Michigan opted in to do that, and they came up with young adult voluntary foster care. So the court case closes at, 18 or 19. Mm-hmm. But if the youth is working or in school or has a medical condition that prevents them from working or going to school, they can come right back in, like immediately, like within a couple days, into young adult voluntary foster care. All the services stay the same. Their stipend stays the same. The only difference is that there's no longer any court involvement. Okay. So some of the kids like that, because they don't like going to court because
I don't blame them.
You're right. I mean, they're not, not on trial, but it's nerve-wracking. Never fun. Yeah. No. So they kind of like it because they get the same services, same caseworker in many cases, and it extends. So that program is available until their 21st birthday.
Okay.
Yep. I will say, so that's having, full, like a caseworker, like you have an open foster care case, right? You're still in foster care. You're getting ready to age out. You know that I didn't like saying that, but I did.
I understand. I've been trying to use the word transition.
I like that. Yeah.
Yep.
And now there's also some closed case services available. So Orchards, we recently started offering that program as of October 1. They're called Youth in Transition. So every state has it, and they're also called different things, but in Michigan we call it Youth in Transition, and those are funds that are available up until the age of 23 for any good or service that will help them reach independence. So we're talking driver's education, a laptop so they can go to school.
Wow.
Sometimes even like a vehicle in some cases if they don't live near like a bus route and they have a job and they're like, look, I have this job, I have these pay stubs, I just need a way to get there. So they can apply for...
Can I apply for that? I'm I'm middle-aged.
You're past the age of 20. I think you're past the age of 23.
I have children older than 23, so yeah. I'm
You're older than 23?
A little bit.
So they can apply.
It's the beard that
Fooled
gives
me.
it away.
Yeah, that's what gives it away.
If I shaved the beard off, I could pass for 23.
Or car repairs. There's a one-time... you can get up to like $900 for like a lifetime limit for a car repair. If they you know how cars are, like they're
yes, I
always
do.
breaking.
Yeah.
I have.
Yep.
I
Right.
have one in the shop right now.
Or for, job interview clothing or just things like that. So we offer that program now, and it is going nuts right now. I think we have like 26 kids in the past 3 weeks who we are now working with.
Wow.
And it's real quick, like they found an apartment. These are kids who are a little bit older, 21, 22. So they're, in a lot of cases, like they're a little bit further along
Right.
than, 16 or 17-year-old. And like, this is like the last step. They're like, listen, I got this job. This is going great. I found this apartment. I can afford it. Like, can you help me with the first month's rent or the security deposit?
Sure.
And we can apply for those funds on their behalf, help them out with anything else, that came up. And then we send them kind of on their way. So that's now till 23. So this expansion and this investment that we are seeing is in my opinion, not quite enough yet, but we are heading down the right direction.
Okay.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Now, let's see here. So for going back to, if anyone's wondering, okay, so if I take in an adult, I help them, mentor them, I do have the support, but what if this adult has other type of issues, substance abuse,
Mental
health, major learning disabilities, and what in the ideal program, what is offered for that?
We will get them the help they need. We have an in-house, clinical department with a large number of clinicians who are, trauma informed, and we even talked about the trauma and like the PTSD that appears in a lot of this population.
Right, because kids don't enter the foster care system because things are going really well,
Exactly.
right?
Oh,
We
yeah.
can all acknowledge that because it's a big deal. If children are entering foster care, it means that the court has been able to look at the petition filed and say, yeah, you know what, I think that we can determine a safer placement for this child other than being with their parents. They're basically saying the state's going to be able to do a safer job of being a parent for this child than the parent can at this point in time. That's a really big deal. And the state of Michigan, especially over the past 10 to 20 years, I would say, has recognized that that's the reason why it becomes less and less prevalent. This is truly going to be the most severe cases that we have, the times that we truly think there's no way that we can have this child stay in this home with this parent safely. And so that means that this child has been unfortunately privy
seen
to
some things.
A lot of things that have gone on in that home. And there's a multitude of reasons of why children enter the foster care system. I think the most important things is that we are not looking to monstricize the parents. It's not, people don't wake up and decide that they want to abuse and neglect their children. There are other circumstances at play. And so what we try to do, especially at Orchards, is recognize that and give everyone the supports that they need. Sometimes we have families entering the foster care system where the parents themselves, they were in the foster care system. And that is really not a great outcome that we see, and that clearly is being able to show that there are more improvements that need to be made with the work that we do. But that is definitely, to Erin's point, the kids, they're going to need assistance more than just, I'm going to make sure you go to an IEP meeting. There's going to need to be a clinician and a caseworker that's going to be able to help children go through what they have experienced, be able to determine good coping skills so that when they are hopefully back in a parent placement or in a different permanent living situation that's going to be able to provide safety and security for them, that they're not just going to repeat the same cycle. They've been able to, learn different skills so that they're better off from being involved with the foster care system. That's the goal, right? That
Exactly.
you leave the foster care system better off than when you entered.
Exactly. And going back again to the staff at Orchards, there's counseling sessions and wonderful people that help with that.
And there's training and consultation, too, that we
Exactly.
offer
Yep.
to our independent living providers. So, I mean, a lot of our providers I have found are, youngish, late 20s, early 30s. Maybe they haven't had children of their own, but they're in a position where they have an extra bedroom and they're like, sure, why not? I can handle a 16-year-old who I don't have to drive to school. I don't have to drive to all these appointments because they're going to, get there themselves, or their work is going to help, or we're going to, I can come home from work at 5:30 and I don't have to worry about latchkey. So we have found that, but they don't have some of the skills, that maybe an experienced parent does. So we do provide training, absolutely. and consultation, and a 24/7 phone number they can call if there's an emergency or a crisis that they need help being talked through.
Sure.
And then just with the services, with whatever is identified as a need. Substance abuse can happen. We can see it sometimes in our teens. We see some reckless behavior sometimes, and we do our best to address it. The services are there and the supports are there. Sometimes it's getting, what's that euphemism? Bringing the horse to water, can't make them drink, something like
Exactly.
that.
Right.
So, they're available, and we just, we do our best, and we try to, really engage the youth and also their support, the people around them, whether that's a significant other, whether it is, maybe it's their birth parent. And that's a reality that people should get comfortable with. The majority, I would say, of these young adults are still in contact with their birth family, and they have been some of the most helpful allies I've had when trying to get their kids to do better. And they're great. Those connections are never going to be lost, especially if you enter foster care when you're 15, right?
Sure.
You've had your parent around forever.
Well, and that was what I wanted to ask about, is how often do you see those kind of short turnarounds where it's a situation where the parent is struggling and they lose their kids to the foster system, and then that's what they need to wakes them up, and 6 months later they have a job and they are going back to nursing school and checking the boxes that the court would ask them to. Like, how often, I guess, what's the shortest, not the shortest, but is there
There's a goal.
Right.
So for the state of Michigan, for the goal of when they're entering foster care is to be able to, at least 40% we want to be able to see of those children return to their parents they're removed from within a year.
Okay.
So the baseline that we go off of is that we want to be able to, within a year, have children return home, or if that can't happen, that's when we look for the next permanent solution that we can find, the next permanent family the children can have.
Okay.
Because foster care, as much as, we'll talk it up all day of the great services we provide, foster care is not a place to raise kids in, right? It's a temporary solution. It's a temporary safe space for these kids, but it's also, children know that they're not necessarily going to, it's not a guarantee, right? I knew where I was going to sleep every single night. There were guarantees of things that I never had to worry about that these children in the foster care system do, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
So the goal is to get them in, get the services, be able to provide the coping skills, be able to see if we can get them return home safely, and then get out.
And especially for the older kids, because you're a baby, 2, 3, 4 years old. You don't necessarily realize that as much, but as you get older, and I experience that a lot. It's hard. It's hard to see. You do your best. You treat them like your own. But there's always that hope that they can go back, depending on the situation, of course, that they can go back to their biological parents.
And I think overall, well over half end up going home. That's what the statistics say. End up going home. However, for the older group, if you enter care after 15, I think it's just under 50% have a plan of reunification. So the older you are, when you enter care, kind of the
less likely it is.
And the longer you stay in foster
Right.
care as well. So that's why this group is so, so important to me particularly,
Sure.
but just, to everyone.
Right.